Okay, so I had to do this recording again because the other video ended up being like way too long. So I'm just gonna get straight to the point. This is my budget tracker project. I'm gonna run it. There are 5 different functions to add a transaction, view the transaction log, view the statistics, and sort the transactions either in ascending or descending order. So I'm gonna add some transactions. They can have decimals, so I'm gonna start with like an integer, and it will accept that because the integer will just get automatically casted to a double. And then you can also you have to enter a transaction category, either an income or an expense. So the next transaction, I can do something like negative 50.67, and I'm gonna add a few more transactions so I can just show you how the sorting works. So I guess I'll add something like 8,000 income, and then something like negative 700.56. That's an expense, and maybe one more, so like 560. So you can view the transaction log, which will pretty much print out the entire transaction list. It will print out the amount, the date it was created, and also the category. And there's also statistics. The only statistics I actually added was the sum of the transactions, so that will add all of them up. And then there was also the sorting. It was pretty much self-explanatory, but you can also sort it in either by amount or date. These are already sorted by date, so I'm going to show you amount first. That was a typo. Yeah. Okay, so it's not going to show me the array because it's to do 2 again in order to view it. And you can see that it sorts all of the transactions by their amount, and you can also sort it by date. I'm going to do descending order this time, so I can view it, and now you can see it sorts them based on the time they were created. So the ones that are created later are at the top because it's in descending order. So how I made this basically was I used 2 different classes. The account class, which has pretty much everything. It manages like the list of transactions that you see is being processed here. Also the runner code, and also the custom transaction class. So for the transaction class, I needed the category, which is a string, the date, which is the Java date object, and also the amount, which is a double. The constructors right here, nothing new really. Also has some getters, and also a toString method that will override the normal string method when you print it, which I'm gonna use. So, and this is the account class. I actually have one static variable here. It's just so that if you saw back here, it outputted the account number. It doesn't really matter because I only have one instance of the account class, but I just add that just in case, I guess. And also the date it was created. So there is also the constructor, and I also had like a scanner that I use for like all of the inputs here, because I'm like only using one input stream, so I figured that'll be alright. And then another constructor in case the account is empty. So this is a helper method. I'm not going to go over that yet, but I have 2 methods basically. One for sorting the transactions by the date, and also for sorting by the amount. I considered putting them into the same method, but then I would need like a conditional, and then at that point would it really be more efficient? That's what I thought to myself. And plus you would also, it might not work because like of the recursive nature of this sorting algorithm. And I implemented merge sort. So basically what it does is gets the midpoint of the array, which is the transactions, splits them into 2 arrays, and then recursively does that to the subarrays, I'm gonna call them. And once the size reaches 1, it gets, well, there's no return value, but like you're basically stopping not like the function, but that specific call, and you're going back up the call stack, and then you're gonna merge them, which will sort those subarrays. Then you're gonna go up again, and you're gonna merge them again until you get the sorted array. That's pretty much what the merge sort is. Here you're just getting the smaller of the 2 elements, but in this case I need to use the getter because you can't compare the objects directly. And I did that too for the date, pretty much the same concept, just with different values. And that is my sorting algorithm. These are the options that the user has. You can see that it takes in the input to add the transaction to the transaction list. There also some like yeah, so pretty much it has to be either an income or expense or else it's an invalid category, and then you make this program makes a new instance of the transaction using the helper method that I defined earlier. Also, this will print out all the transactions, just enhanced for loop, and since I have the toString method, it will print out all of the information in like a comprehensible manner. And then here we'll just get the sum of all of the transactions, which I implemented here. And then this is the sorting. So this was actually a little bit weird because merge sort is not in place. In place means that it will return the original array. I mean, like permutate. I think that's the word. Permutate the original array. But merge sort doesn't do that. It needs space in the memory for another array. So what I basically had to do in order to keep this a void method was to set the sorted array to the original array. So that's what I did here, in order to avoid having to do something silly like setting the transaction to like the return value of this method. I don't know, that just seemed a little bit stupid. But for descending order, I know that you can just modify this code so that you're just changing it to like greater than 0, but I didn't want to make like 2 more methods, so I figured that would be easier. Maybe it would be probably less efficient, but I have a method to just reverse the transaction list. I mean, this is nothing new. It just swaps the elements at the indexes described until it reaches the middle, which in that case it would already be reversed by that point. So that's just how it's sorted in descending order. And then that is pretty much it. There was also one more small problem that I had, because it's sort of a weird problem that I never really came across in Java before actually, which is a little bit surprising. But if you have like a next double followed by like a next line, you need a next line to consume this line. Yeah, I'm not really sure either. I'm not too familiar with like the details of the scanner class, but that's just something I had to do in order for this to work properly. Otherwise, this would just immediately jump to, well, this entire conditional would just immediately end for some reason. It wouldn't even ask the user for the input. But apparently putting this here solved that problem. How many minutes has it been? Okay, 8 minutes. I can wrap this up soon. So one more thing was that I was actually sort of unfamiliar to this kind of object-oriented programming. This kind of goes into my takeaways. If you have like a class that describes like a few variables, and then you also have like a data structure, in this case an array list, that holds instances of that object, in order to have like a method that acts on like the data structure itself, you need like another class. You can't just put it in here. That wouldn't really make any sense, because these methods only act on that specific instance. So that's why I made this whole class. I think it makes it look cleaner. But aside from that, I also followed some new object-oriented programming principles that like I was unfamiliar with in JavaScript. Like, there's no such thing as a static or a private or public method, and that was just something I had to get used to. But it does make a lot more sense, to be honest. And that's all, just under 10 minutes. just realized my video didn't show the transaction list actually being sorted by the date. So here you see them being sorted by amount. Now I'm gonna sort them by the date, like properly this time. You can see that the later dates are at the top and the earlier dates at the bottom. I don't know why it wasn't doing that earlier, but now it is, I guess. Yeah.